2 hours, November 4th, 2025. Moscow. On a stage in Red Square, Vladimir Putin is giving a speech proclaiming to a cheering crowd that the motherland is, and always will be, inviolable. He has no idea that 50 feet above the festive crowd, 50 Ukrainian drones are already in position, having breached Moscow's final line of defense. This quiet revenge began 48 hours earlier, after Russia spent $2.8 billion on a missile storm designed for one purpose: terror. The barrage deliberately leveled a children's hospital in Kharkiv and vaporized 40% of Ukraine's eastern air defenses. In the aftermath, Ukraine was silent. No press conferences, no calls for aid, just a single chilling order issued from a Kyiv bunker by President Zelensky authorized the strike. The strategic imbalance was stark. Defending Moscow was a layered fortress of S-400, Panzer S-1, and Krasuka-4 electronic warfare systems, a $1.8 billion security system enough to buy a fleet of 3,600 Teslas. Ukraine's answer was a swarm of 50 Liutyi long-range attack drones, each with a 600-mile range and a 22-pound payload. The total cost of the entire operation was $500,000, less than the price of a single high-end Ferrari. The question was simple and brutally asymmetric. Could $500,000 of Ukrainian ingenuity penetrate a $1.8 billion shield of Russian pride? Could a swarm of AI-guided drones turn Russia's biggest national holiday into a shooting gallery? Before takeoff from a concealed position near Sumy, each drone was physically linked by fiber optic cables on the ground, receiving a final unjammable data package. Terabytes of satellite imagery, topographical maps, and Russian air defense layouts. Once airborne, they flew dark. No radio chatter, no GPS. Moscow is an electronic fortress, and the Liutyi drones were designed to treat it as such. Their primary guidance was pure physics, a set of hypersensitive solid-state gyroscopes and accelerometers tracking every change in velocity and direction. It's like navigating blindfolded by perfectly remembering every single step you take. But over a 600-mile journey, even the best inertial navigation system will drift, accumulating errors that could mean the difference between hitting a target and landing in a public park. This is where Ukrainian ingenuity turned a simple drone into an autonomous predator. An onboard AI continuously cross-referenced the drone's real-time camera feed with the stored satellite maps. It wasn't just matching images, it was reading the landscape, a specific bend in a river, the shadow of a forgotten barn, the exact pattern of a forest. It was the military equivalent of facial recognition, but for the Earth itself. At the border, the swarm reconfigured. Small pods of 10 drones shifted into tight, erratic formations that mimicked flocks of birds. To the bored Russian conscript watching the screen, they were just blips below the 20-mile radar horizon. Nothing more than winter geese. The radar swept over them, completely blind. Then, a single drone's engine sputtered and died. A hardware failure. For a lesser system, it would be one drone lost. But the swarm's AI, trained on complex biological flocking algorithms, didn't just register a lost unit. It instantly reassigned the dead drone's primary target, redistributed its decoy patterns among the survivors, and adjusted the entire formation's energy consumption to compensate. It wasn't a group of drones, it was a self-healing organism. As they neared the capital's glow, they dropped even lower, using the Moskva River as their highway, its dark waters masking their thermal signature. They were silent predators swimming through a sea of celebratory lights. 01:54 hours. As Liutyi 02 ghosted over the first apartment blocks of the Moscow suburbs, its internal threat map suddenly lit up like a Christmas tree. On a skyscraper roof 3 miles ahead, a Panzer S-1 air defense system had just woken up, and it was angry. Its twin 30mm cannons, capable of spitting out 5,000 rounds per minute, began to slew towards the drone's position. A moment later, a missile streaked into the sky. But the Liutyi's AI wasn't just mimicking a bird's flight path. It was using the celebration itself as camouflage. Just as the Panzer's radar painted the drone, a massive firework exploded nearby. The missile's seeker, confused by the sudden, larger thermal signature, veered sharply and detonated the firework in a spectacular, unscheduled burst of red and gold. The perfect shot on the wrong target. Inside the Panzer's control cabin, the operator stared at his screen in disbelief. One moment, he had a low observable contact. The next, a firework. "Is it a decoy? A bird?" he yelled into his comms. He switched to manual, unleashing a torrent of 30mm cannon fire into the night. The tracer zipped harmlessly through the air as the drone, executing a pre-programmed jink, vanished behind a block of flats. The cannon fire acted as a doorbell for the real monster. Deep inside Moscow's ring of steel, the S-400 Triumph came to life. This wasn't some rooftop guard dog, this was the apex predator of air defense. Its 92N6E gravestone engagement radar, powerful enough to track a baseball from 250 miles away, began to sweep the sky, capable of processing 300 targets simultaneously. It spotted Liutyi 03 instantly. A lock-on tone screamed in the Russian command post. But then, something strange happened. The drone didn't jink or dive. Instead, its AI altered its flight pattern with microscopic adjustments, a slight dip, a subtle change in velocity, perfectly replicating the signature of a large bird caught in an updraft. The S-400's powerful computer, designed to filter out biological clutter to prevent false alarms, ran the data. Target velocity inconsistent. Flight path non-ballistic. Conclusion: false positive bird. The lock-on warning vanished. Down in the command bunker, the officer swore, "It's those damn birds again." On the giant screen in Red Square, Putin's face was resolute. "Our unity is our strength. Our borders are secure." He was right about one thing. His borders were secure. The threat wasn't at the border. It was already inside. 158 hours. Here's the brutal truth about the S-400 Triumph. It's a technological masterpiece designed to solve the wrong problem. It can track ballistic missiles in space and shoot down stealth bombers from 250 miles away. Its software is programmed with the digital equivalent of a spam filter, automatically ignoring slow, low-flying objects with erratic signatures. Anything that looks like a bird gets sorted into the junk folder. And tonight, Ukraine sent it 50 emails that quacked. The swarm's first advantage was pure physics. At a flight altitude of just 50 feet over Moscow's relatively flat terrain, the drones were flying below the S-400's radar horizon. The second advantage was the AI brain inside each Liutyi drone. It wasn't just an autopilot, it was a deep learning actor. Using terabytes of data on the migratory patterns of Eurasian cranes, the AI wasn't just mimicking a flight path, it was performing it. It introduced subtle random variations in speed and altitude, perfectly replicating the signature of a living creature. It was a script written by Mother Nature, executed by a processor with the reaction time of a pro gamer's graphics card. Then came the saturation. An S-400 can track 300 targets, a truly terrifying number. But the Liutyi swarm wasn't just 50 drones. Each one was also a miniature electronic warfare pod projecting ghost signals. Suddenly, the S-400 screen wasn't seeing 50 targets. It was seeing 400, then 500, all with the flight patterns of birds. It's like trying to swat 50 bees when your brain tells you there are 500. You don't know where to swing first. The system's logic circuits were paralyzed by choice. Back in Kiev, the Ukrainian hacker watched the data streams. It's like watching a legacy mainframe from the 90s try to run a new video game. The hardware is powerful, but the software's logic just can't keep up. Inside the Moscow command bunker, an engineer stared at his console in horror. His billion-dollar system was telling him there were hundreds of contacts, but that they were all birds. He was trapped in a logical paradox, and he knew that if he was wrong, Putin wasn't going to just fire him. 01:59 hours. The first Liutyi drone was pure bait, a sacrificial lamb sent to test the defenses. It streaked ahead of the main swarm, deliberately letting a Panzer system get a solid lock before detonating its 22-pound payload in a brilliant mid-air fireball. The plan was simple. The result was chaos. The explosion, mixing with the sulfur and heat of the Unity Day fireworks, created a blinding cloud of thermal and visual static. The AI navigation on the drones following behind, which relied on matching terrain to satellite imagery, was suddenly flying blind through a digital hurricane. For the Russian EW operators, this was the moment they'd been waiting for. A signal was given, and the Krasuka 4 system surged to life, blanketing a 100-mile radius around Moscow in a fist of pure electromagnetic energy. On the Ukrainian command feed, 10 drones flatlined simultaneously, their data links severed. In the Russian command bunker, a cheer went up. Gotcha! The Russians thought they had pulled the plug. For Ukraine, it was just time to switch to the backup generator. A new command rippled through the swarm, not from Kyiv, but from within the AI itself. The 38 drones that survived the initial jamming pulse instantly switched from visual to LiDAR navigation. It's the same core technology a self-driving Tesla uses to map the world in a 3D point cloud of lasers. You can blind a camera with smoke, but you can't blind a laser that's building a real-time digital twin of the city around it. The drones didn't need to see the buildings anymore, they were feeling them out with invisible light. Seeing the drones push through the jamming, a desperate Panzer operator managed to get a lock on 2 more, firing a pair of missiles that shredded them into carbon fiber confetti. A victory, but a hollow one. The swarm's AI didn't just register the loss, it used it. The remaining 36 drones instantly broke formation and executed their final command, loiter. They stopped their direct approach and began circling high above the celebration, perfectly timing their movements to coincide with the firework bursts. They became ghosts in the machine, their heat signatures indistinguishable from the festive explosions. The Russians knew they were still up there, somewhere, but they were lost in the noise. Invisible predators hiding in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. 2:01 hours. Liutyi 01 peeled away from the fireworks and tipped into a steep dive. Through its FPV camera, the target was crystal clear, the pulsating antenna array of the Krasuka 4 EW system, the electronic heart of Moscow's defense. On the ground, Russian soldiers looked up, finally seeing the dark shapes detaching from the colorful explosions, and began to run. Inside the command bunker, chaos erupted. "Radar is blind! I have hundreds of ghost signals!" an operator screamed. "Get the Panzers to engage Sector 4! But which target? The S-400's processor was being hit with the electronic equivalent of a DDoS attack, trying to calculate firing solutions for phantoms that flickered in and out of existence. Back in Kiev, the hacker leaned into his microphone, his voice a calm metronome in the storm. 10, 9, 8. On the giant screen in Red Square, Putin's speech reached its crescendo. "Russia stands united and invincible!" The crowd roared, their faces upturned, completely unaware of the silent winged reapers now converging above them. The festival was about to become a shooting gallery, and they were standing in the middle of it. Then, Liutyi 27's camera feed began to flicker. Its battery indicator flashed a critical red 5%. It had fought the wind, dodged the jamming, and now it was running on fumes. The Ukrainian operator watching its feed whispered a prayer to a machine. "Just a little further, little hero. Just get home." The Russian operators could only watch as their multi-billion-dollar defense shield was rendered impotent by what their screens still insisted were just birds. The final seconds ticked away, each one an eternity of failure. 02:02 hours. Liutyi 01, the designated spearhead, released its 22-pound payload. The HE frag munition dropped cleanly. Tiny fins deployed, stabilizing its descent as it glided towards the Krasuka 4 EW complex at a steady 40 miles per hour. The final feed from its FPV camera was cold and digital. The target's antenna array was perfectly centered. The WGS-84 coordinates were locked, a digital tombstone calculated to a 2.1 meter offset from the main mast. At 02:02 and 3.7 seconds, there was no fireball, no cinematic explosion, just a flash of white like a faulty camera bulb. The warhead didn't detonate, it punched. It carved a perfectly circular hole through 1.8 feet of steel-reinforced concrete, disappearing into the structure. And then it was inside. The 1.1 second delay fuse was now counting down in the dark. That 1.1 second delay wasn't a malfunction, it was the entire point. The real target wasn't the antenna on the roof, but the command bunker buried 12 feet beneath it. This wasn't an attack, it was surgery. When the 22-pound warhead went off, it wasn't in the open air, it was inside a concrete box. It's the difference between lighting a firecracker in an open field versus in a steel trash can. The initial shockwave had nowhere to go. It slammed into the bunker walls and ceiling, then reflected back on itself, instantaneously doubling the blast pressure at the epicenter. The first thing to go was load-bearing column number 3. The concrete roof of the bunker, weighing 80 tons, pancaked onto the floor below. The blast simultaneously sealed the ventilation shafts, turning the bunker into a pressure cooker with no release valve. The overpressure found the next weakest point, the 3-inch thick steel security doors. It didn't unlock them, it tore them from their hinges like they were made of cardboard. The result was a cascade of catastrophic failure. Circuit boards for the Krasuka 4's encryption network were vaporized. The radio was still on, but there was no station. 02:05 hours. In what was left of the bunker, 5 Russian engineers sat in stunned silence, their faces illuminated only by the emergency lights and the pale glow of error messages. It was the blue screen of death for a nation's air defense. The FSB had the area locked down in 7 minutes, but they were sealing a tomb. There was nothing to report but failure. By 02:15, a Keyhole 17 satellite passing overhead delivered the receipt for Ukraine's $500,000 investment. The high-resolution image showed a clean surgical crater, 18 feet deep and 22 feet wide. 80% of Moscow's electronic warfare nervous system was simply gone. With the electronic shepherd dead, the rest of the flock was free to roam. The 35 surviving Liutyi drones, now unopposed, fanned out and began hitting targets of opportunity in Kursk and Belgorod with impunity. Russian artillery batteries went deaf. Over 60% of their targeting data came from drones, which now had no protection from Ukrainian electronic attacks. They couldn't shoot what they couldn't see. Logistics froze. A critical armored convoy moving out of Tula sat motionless for 6 hours, waiting for an all-clear that would never come. It was a complete supply chain collapse triggered by a single, perfectly placed server outage. The initiative was lost. On the Kupiansk front, with Russian command and control in chaos, Ukraine's 92nd Mechanized Brigade advanced 12 kilometers, taking territory that had been static for months. And in Moscow, the psychological pillar cracked. For the first time in 25 years, Vladimir Putin did not finish his speech. The broadcast cut away abruptly. Hours later from Washington, a tweet landed like a final insult. Putin just got a $500K wake-up call. The art of the asymmetric deal. The next day, the White House announced a new $1.2 billion aid package for Ukraine. On November 4, 2025, Ukraine proved a new law of modern warfare. The winner is not the one with the most expensive radar. It's the one who knows how to turn fireworks into a smokescreen and cheap drones into smart bombs.